Examples of assertion-based engagement. So examples or specific examples of assertion-based engagement. So we have audit and review engagement. So why? So because here the company issues a representation no, in the form of financial statements. And these financial statements are available to users. So because there is a subject matter information made available to users of financial statements, they are considered assertion-based engagement, okay, or attest engagement. And finally, we have here examples of other assurance services. So meaning to say, these assurance services have for their subject matter other than financial information. So example, the first one we have the business performance measurement rather. So in business performance measurement, the practitioner provides assurance for both financial or non-financial information being reported from the entity's performance management system is reliable and whether the performance measures used are leading the entity toward achieving their goals and objectives. So here the subject matter is the entity's performance management system. Okay? Another example is healthcare performance measurement. So in this case, it involves the evaluation of the quality of the healthcare, medical services, and outcome. So therefore, the practitioner will look into the healthcare delivery system, the medical services provided, and quality attributes associated with these services. So during this time of pandemic, this is a very important assurance service, no? For us to validate the information being released, for example, in the media about the actual healthcare performance of the different healthcare facilities around the world. Okay, so diba, when we watch news, current events, so usually there are reports about the healthcare capacity, remaining healthcare capacity of a city or of a place. So those information can be subjected to assurance engagement like this one, healthcare performance measurement, so that the information being presented to the public are validated no, by experts before releasing them by the different healthcare facilities. Okay. Another example, we have Elder Care Plus. So it is an evaluation designed to provide assurance to the elderly and their relatives about the quality of care that are being provided by various caregivers by comparing their specific objectives in providing care versus the actual services rendered. So usually in other countries, this is very relevant because they put their elder in a facility. So they want to know whether the caregivers are performing based on the set objectives. So we also have risk assessment services. So wherein the practitioner identifies a set of risks that can affect the organization, and it involves the study of the link between those risks and the organization's vision, mission, and goals, and development of relevant measures not to address those risks. So another relevant assurance services nowadays is this CPA Web Trust or SysTrust. So this is a seal of assurance no, developed jointly by American Institute of Certified Public Accountants or AICPA and the Canadian Institute of Chartered Accountants or CICA. So this web trust enables consumers, no, users of website and business platforms, no, to purchase goods and services over the internet. So with the confidence that the website meet high standards of business practice, so set forth in their CPA Web Trust principles and criteria. So meaning, for example, in the countries concerned, if a certain website has that particular seal, then uh, consumers will have more confidence in using that website. So they believe that it has been subjected to procedures, it has been subjected to examination of independent third parties providing the web trust services. And finally, we have information systems reliability. So wherein it involves evaluation whether the financial or non-financial information system provide reliable information for operating and financial decision of the entity's management. So like for example, you may be asked to perform assurance services on the reliability of enrollment system of a university. Okay? or let's say system of government agency, information system of a government agency. So the subject matter here is the information system of the entity. Okay? So finally, last part of our discussion related to assurance engagement are the limitations to assurance or limitations of assurance engagement. As we mentioned earlier, so in practice, we cannot provide absolute assurance. So these are the reasons why. So number one, the use of selective testing. Meaning to say, when we perform assurance services, so we do not test all the available evidence. So usually we use what we call sampling method. Okay? So it is allowed for us to test sample only and not all the items or evidence available. So therefore, so at the end of the day, there's still a chance, no, or window of error. So based on the conclusion on a population that is not tested 100% basis. So another is the pervasive use of judgment. So remember earlier, a lot of our discussion focus on us using our professional judgment. So and therefore, it can also lead to lapses in judgment on our part and therefore can result to incorrect conclusion. So even if for example we perform all the required procedures stated in the standard, but a lot of it involves judgment on our part, we can still arrive at incorrect conclusion. So another is inherent limitations of internal control. So even if the entity has sound internal control, so there are still limitations. So because for example, for one, those internal controls are being implemented by human beings. And human beings are subject to fatigue, okay, or lapses in judgment also. So therefore, it can also result to incorrect information even if the control is good. Another is that as practitioner, we also use persuasive rather than conclusive evidence. So normally, we are not expected to be experts, no, in determining the ingenuity of the evidence. So long as the evidence is persuasive, so meaning to say it can persuade us to believe that it is correct, so then we can rely on that. Okay, so we do not delve so much on the authenticity of that evidence. So for example, we are presented with a document with a signature without erasures, and based on the signature, based on our understanding of or based on our familiarity of the signature of the responsible officer, it is the signature that we've been looking for, then we can already treat it as acceptable evidence. But if in reality it was forged and it was uh, perfectly forged, for example, then we will rely on that already, even if it is not authentic or it is not genuine. So therefore, it can also lead to incorrect conclusions. So because we were presented with a forged document. And finally, the characteristic of subject matter can also lead to complex engagement. Like for example, the subject matter is subjective or qualitative. So rather than quantitative or objective. So in that case, it can result to use of judgment in evaluating that subject matter and therefore can lead to incorrect conclusion also. Okay? So last section of our discussion is the non-assurance services. So again, as we mentioned earlier, non-assurance services, so these are the engagement wherein it lacks no or they lack one or more the essential elements of assurance engagement. So the five elements that we have discussed earlier: three-party relationship, appropriate subject matter, suitable criteria, sufficient and appropriate evidence, and written assurance report. So if an engagement lacks one or more of those essential elements, then they become non-assurance services. So examples of non-assurance services, which we will discuss in detail in one of our future topics or video lecture, we have the first one, agreed upon procedure. So under agreed upon procedure, we carry out procedures of an audit nature, but the practitioner, the entity, and any appropriate third parties have agreed to report on factual findings rather than providing conclusion. So therefore, there is no what we call this conclusion, or there is no assurance involved. So but we are asked to report on factual findings. So because there is no assurance to be provided, then it will fall under non-assurance engagement. Next, we have compilation engagement, wherein the CPA is engaged to use accounting expertise. So rather than auditing expertise to collect, classify, and summarize financial information. Example, preparation of financial statements. So often, this only involve two parties, no? The CPA and the company. So there is no three-party relationship. There is also no assurance being issued or provided. So it will fall under non-assurance engagement. So some tax services, like for example, preparation of tax return. So same reason, two parties are only involved, only the company and the entity, the company and the CPA. So no three-party relationship, no assurance being provided. So therefore, non-assurance engagement. And finally, we have management consulting. So in management consulting, we provide recommendations rather than conclusion, or rather than providing assurance. And also, it only involves two parties, the entity and the CPA. So considered as non-assurance engagement. So that ends our discussion under this topic.